Hello, I'm Anthony Cusimano, and this is my good friend Alex Restrepo. So today we're taking a look at our protection pillar, and we're continuing to look at NetBackup, specifically how to configure it and set up some of the deeper nuts and bolts inside of the application.
Yeah, that's accurate. And so if you're the NetBackup admin, the person that's really tasked with the deep level understanding of the environment and managing it, you're still going to be using the Java console as a way to take care of that. We have some really cool other tools for presenting it for day-to-day use, management, and for maybe other users you want to give some control over. But for the true NetBackup admin, the Java console is where you would go to take care of the environment. Right now, I really just wanted to focus in on some of the basic configuration. And so you can see here that once you have NetBackup installed, basically what we're looking at here is just the normal configuration wizards, right? And so going down the list, we do have a step-by-step get started if you want to take a look at that. I'm somewhat familiar with NetBackup, so I'm going to go ahead and skip that one. But normally that would be not a bad place to start if it's your first time.
Sure.
You can see, of course, all the normal wizards in terms of, because NetBackup is so spread out, it's so capable of consuming the entire enterprise that we do have tapes. So you can see here we can configure robots and drives. We can configure disk storage servers. Importantly, cloud storage servers. We'll click on that in a second. A disk pool, configure volumes. And again, volumes, of course, is just going to be the logical units, right? So above that had all been really more or less physical units. Even if it's the cloud, we're still talking about pointing it to a real cloud. Once we start going into volumes and storage units, that's when we start talking about the logical subgroups within NetBackup.
So I definitely know some of these words,
Sure.
and I know you're the expert here, and I'm a little more basic. But is it safe to say that someone like myself could kind of do a start to finish from this view?
Yeah, absolutely. If you start to get into the get started, number one, absolutely, it's going to walk you through it step by step. What's really great too is that honestly, we're really search engine optimized, and if you get stuck on any of this stuff, if you Google NetBackup space the thing you're stuck on, it's going to take you to the right page inside the right guide. Pretty much the first, maybe the second link. And so there's really no way to get stuck, but certainly, of course, we have plenty of experts throughout the company that are willing to help out anybody that's stuck on any part of this.
That's very handy.
Yeah, and so if we click on one of these, as an example, let's click on Configure Cloud Storage. We're not actually going to configure one here because we do already have one configured in the environment, and we can show you what that looks like when it's finished. But I kind of just wanted to show the breadth of what we have here in terms of availability.
There's a lot of clouds in there.
Yes, there's a lot of clouds in the world. So there's Cumulus, there's Sirius, there's, all numbers.
I've seen a few of those.
Yeah, basically more or less any S3 compatible, and of course Azure Blob.
Okay.
We're going to have available as storage targets, and those can be near term in terms of more readily available S3 targets, and they can be long term in terms of like Azure Glacier as an example. We can directly target that in a deduplicated way from NetBackup. So pretty cool stuff. So right now we can just go with the very basic S3 connection here with Amazon, and we'll hit next. And what you'll see here, it's going to ask us a little bit of information. Obviously, it needs to point to a name. It already knows the host in terms of Amazon. That's pre-baked for you. And then from there, you're going to need your access key and your secret access key. This takes the place of a normal username and password. This is just the nomenclature that the cloud providers use, right? And all of them are going to have something similar. Azure's going to have it, Google's going to have it. Either way, the equivalent of username and password, you would put it in here. And that's actually something you're going to see repeated throughout NetBackup's configuration, is that we really emphasize the net portion.
Right.
If you have a network connection to something, we're going to be able to consume it very easily within NetBackup.
That's actually super cool. I've been with Veritas for 9 years, and I still haven't put together the net. NetBackup refers to network.
You'll get there.
One day.
It's bound to happen. So we'll cancel this. We can take a look at one that we already have in the environment. But basically, you get the idea is that really from there would have been one more step to configure the actual bucket, and the last step to just confirm all your changes, to basically as you create the storage unit. And then once you have that, you can actually pull that into a policy, and we can see here all of the various storage units. As an example, we do have a cloud storage unit right here. And this is just populated with the information we would have populated from that wizard. Right? And so this is targeting AWS as an example in a deduplicated way.
So I notice it does say CC there. Pray tell, does that mean Cloud Catalyst?
It does indeed.
Oh.
Yes, it's not carbon copy this time. So Cloud Catalyst, and we'll definitely talk about that in other areas, but Cloud Catalyst is our preferred methodology for deduping to the cloud. The ratios can vary, but we estimate somewhere in the vicinity of like a 10-to-1 savings in terms of compression.
That's awesome.
And then of course that's going to lead to savings in terms of how much am I sending up to the cloud, what kind of bandwidth am I using, and how much am I storing in the cloud. And then lastly, importantly, how much do I have to take back in terms of egress? Because that's a concern you have to worry about.
Absolutely.
But that's just cloud configuration. We like to talk in Veritas anyway about being spread across physical, virtual cloud. We've talked about cloud. Let's talk a little bit about configuring a virtual environment.
Yeah,
Did you think the cloud configuration was easy?
Yeah, I could definitely do that.
Okay. Well, I got good news for you then, because the virtual configuration is even easier. So basically all I did here was the equivalent of a right click just on a MacBook. And you could click on this little like a star up there. There's a number of different ways you can get here, but I'm gonna go ahead and add one.
Okay.
And so here we'll just call it VM test, because it's not gonna be a real one, but there we go. And so you can see here that really all it's asking for is the virtual data center that we want to target, and then of course credentials. Once again, credentials. If we actually went in to create it, and we can look at the one that's already created here in a moment, you'll see that once you have that, from there, all it does is just confirm all your configuration, and then it's done from there. So obviously, we haven't done a lot in terms of configuring the virtual server. I'm assuming you have some questions about that.
Well, I'm noticing a running trend here that everything just requires, a location and credentials to get in, and it seems very easy to set up.
It's incredibly easy. So what we're doing here is we're going to leverage an account you've already created in vCenter as an example for this instance. And so that account is going to have permissions. Those permissions are going to say, what it has access to, what it has visibility to. Based on those permissions, NetBackup will auto-discover the entire environment. And then from that auto discovery, we can select subsets of VMs to protect. But it's incredibly intuitive to configure here. Honestly, it's incredibly intuitive to configure the account in vCenter as well.
Right.
Not particularly difficult.
Yeah.
The permissions required are, there's a really good KB article for VMware, really good tech note from us. Or worst comes to worst, you can always just give us an admin account. That would certainly work. I know some folks are concerned about admin rights.
Sure.
That's okay. We don't require full admin rights.
Security these days.
Yeah. But either way, once you have that configured, you would have a server right here that we can then target with policies. And so you can see here that really it's not even multi-tabbed. It's just one little window that has what server am I targeting and what's my account that I'm using. In this case, it does happen to be an admin, but again, it doesn't have to be. Really simple.
That is really simple.
And when we look in policies, you'll see how easy it is to then start incorporating these building blocks into your policies.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, for now, I guess in terms of basic configuration, that's what we wanted to cover, unless you had anything else.
No, that's super handy. Thanks, Alex.
All right.